Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. I don't know if you are aware, but this week has also been declared National Police Week. And couldn't think of a better person to have on the program with us today than our good friend Michael Letts. He is the founder and the president and CEO of Invest. He has over 30 years of law enforcement experience under his belt. He's the author of a new book called Truth, Lies, and Control, Finding Hope in an Upside-Down World. There's a picture of the cover of the book there on the screen. He has a couple of websites, investusa.org and Michael Letts, LETTS.us. And there's a picture of that landing page. Brother Michael, good to see you, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing great, Perry. It's always a privilege to be with you, and great times ahead, that's for sure.
Well, you're the man. When I grow up, I want to be like you.
I think we can shoot a little higher than that, Perry.
Hey, listen, so this week was declared National Police Week by the president. How significant is this?
Well, it's very significant. Of course, it is. We've had National Law Enforcement Week for the last decade and a half. The problem is, under the previous administration, it really wasn't recognized. Nothing was really done with it other than to have a little brief speech. This time, we made sure that our fellow law enforcement officers from around the country were invited for special ceremonies. We also made the opportunity to unveil some key proponents and key things the administration is doing, such as making sure there are more resources for law enforcement, more support for law enforcement, and really changing the attitude and the climate for law enforcement across the country. And quite frankly, that's very necessary, Perry, because we're asking these brave men and women to step up to the plate, to go after the cartels and others, to try to make this country safe once again. And unfortunately, they're doing it without the necessary equipment that they have to protect themselves. So at least they need to know this administration is solidly behind them.
Previous administrations and attitudes, law enforcement was being demonized. It was amazing to watch this happen. And in some pockets, they're still there, but it seems to be turning around. Can you give us an update on that?
Sure, it is turning around, and quite frankly, it's an amazing process to watch. We're seeing more and more former law enforcement trying to come back now. We still want to be careful. They want to make sure they're coming back to a place that is not controlled by the blue states, but is controlled by those who support them. And obviously, I think that's in their best interest to do so, Perry. But what we're beginning to see now, here's the real concern that we still face as a nation, is because it was demonized so much in the past, we don't have young people willing to step up to the plate to become a part of the next generation of protectors, of law enforcement officers. And quite frankly, the generation that we have now are getting like me. We're getting old, Perry. We're time to put us out to pasture. So quite frankly, we've got to really concentrate on this. We've got some proposals together. We've asked the president to back these proposals, and we're excited about what we think we have to offer for our children in the next generation ahead.
In the meantime, Michael, as you well know, there seems to be an amazing resurgence of people lining up to join the military. Do you think that might spill over into law enforcement?
We think it's a parallel track. We think it's happening in both ways. And quite frankly, it's because of the fact that they know there's a different attitude. And this administration strongly supports it. We're going to see to it that we give them the tools and the resources necessary. And here's the key thing, Perry, whether it's law enforcement or the military, it's time to quit utilizing America's best as some laboratory experiment in socialism and woke causes. You know, that has no place in military preparedness, in a strong military force ready to succeed, or in law enforcement and upholding the law and protecting our citizens. Keep your socialism to some other place. Keep it out of where it needs to be.
That was my next question. Are there still agencies out there that are strapped with the DEI, or is the president's executive order working?
The president's executive order is working, but let me also let our listeners and our viewers know that there are pockets of resistance. There are pockets of blue states that have appointed blue police chiefs. And quite frankly, they're trying to resist and push back. And what is their purpose in pushing back? They want to make sure they maintain control. They don't like anything that benefits the American people. They're trying to make sure that they can control and tell you what to do. And until a lot of these are eradicated, there's going to be some pushback, but the vast majority are excited in seeing these new policies work, and they're working very effectively.
At the end of the day, there seems to be a message coming out of this new administration Of course, we have, Make America Healthy Again, Make America Prosperous Again. But there's the also Make America Safe Again. That word safe, by the way, I've been reading some information about how we look at the meanings of words. Safe and security is the two words that's number one on the minds of women 35-54.
There's no question they have a right to be, because here's what happened under the previous administration. We didn't care about Americans, about their values, their principles, or their safety. We brought in all these drug cartelists, these terrorists, human sex traffickers, murderers, rapists from all across the world that were brought in. And of course, that was their trade. So what do you think they did with it? They pried on American women. How many rapes and murders have we had in the last few years because of that policy? I've lost track. And quite frankly, that is no way to take care and defend American citizens. And so it's become a key element to them because they're being targeted, they're being preyed upon. And so that's why we decided to make the effort that we would restore safety and freedom to our American people, to protection. And quite frankly, the way to do that is we had to remove that kind of an element, which is why this administration took the initiative when they were first sworn in. We went after every criminal, every cartel, every terrorist, every drug dealer, every child sex trafficker here illegally, and immediately moved to deport them. After that, now it's sent a great wave of fear in a positive way to the rest of the criminal element who happen to be American citizens still here. Let them know that we're not going to tolerate that kind of behavior. We're even going so far as to make sure they have the greatest accommodations in El Salvador. They don't like our accommodations here, we'll send them there. I don't think they're going to like them much better either.
So I guess I don't even know how to ask an obvious question, but let me just lay it on you, brother, and that is, how can anybody in their right mind support anything but security and safety?
Well, quite frankly, you have to look at the objective, Perry, and this is what it is. The leftists and the liberals are so skewed in their thinking. They've lost their conscience. And that's what, scripture tells us you can get to the point you have a seared conscience. You no longer have a conscience. They've lost their conscience and they're focusing on one thing, and that is power. Why do they want power? Because what we have discovered over the last 100 days, we've talked about on your show a few times, all the fraud, all the embezzlement that's going on, taking trillions of dollars from the American taxpayers and lining their own pockets. They don't want to give that up. And quite frankly, they'll do whatever's necessary, including fighting to the death for that matter, to maintain it. That is why they pay no attention to how it affects you and I, whether it keeps our safety, whether it protects our children, our women or not. They don't care. As long as they maintain control, can maintain the cash flow, the illegal cash flow they've got going, that's all they're concerned about. We're determined to stop that. It's so bad, Perry, that they tied in two things to make a lot of money for them, and that is the illegal drug cartels, the drug movements, and then it's child sex trafficking. Both great stains on this country. We're going to be determined to eradicate and remove them.
Isn't it interesting that two of the toughest people in the Trump administration happen to be women? Gabbert's now cleaning house on the national intelligence level, and Bondi is just going at it.
Oh, yeah. In fact, quite frankly, I might add, Barry, we got three of them. Christie over there at Homeland Security.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
In fact, it was funny. In talking with them, it was kind of like, I've seen some of the activities that they're doing on the side. Shoot, they've been in some of the training exercises that we're involved with. They're carrying a M16 and charging in, acting as if they're going to go on ahead and kick the door down themselves. So I was kind of like, wow, I'm amazed. But they're doing a fantastic job. And the reason why is because they understand what I think America understands. If we don't protect American citizens now, who's going to protect our children? Who's going to protect our grandchildren? And quite frankly, if you can't protect them, what kind of a country do you have to live in? And this is one of the final things I say, Perry. If America's gone, where do you go? There's no other place to go.
Isn't that interesting? Why aren't we thinking about that?
The leftist liberal, it's the mainstream media, because they're an arm of the leftist liberal. They're trying to dominate the media. They want to control what you think. And that is why you'll see what their viewpoint is now. They're trying to get you to think that you made a mistake by voting for this administration. This administration is nothing but tyrannical. They're orgs. They have no compassion. They want to take these poor, innocent dads away and ship them to some prison. And they don't care about telling you the truth. that they're here illegally, that they're criminals, that they're murderers, that they're rapists. That's irrelevant. They want you to think that we lack compassion. And I tell people this nationally, Perry, that's not compassion. Compassion is caring for and protecting your family, your country, your children, your grandchildren. That's compassion, not worried about some criminal that's determined to destroy you and your family.
So the other elements that's popped up here, Michael, it's obvious now that these lower court district judges are throwing these injunctions out like candy bars, basically road bumps and speed bumps in front of the president. They don't seem to be holding up, and it's now coming to a point where the Supreme Court has to rule. I guess they're going to use this birthright as the beginning of the case. Sure. And on the other side, the Congress is going to have to get involved on reassuring or redefining, I should say, what is the district court's authority. Where do you see this going?
Well, quite frankly, here's what my position is you know, the Supreme Court should have written this in a long time ago. They heard arguments yesterday. They'll continue to hear them today, and we expect them to do the right thing, Justice Roberts to do the right thing. But we expect Congress to do the right thing. The problem is, here's what we have discovered, Barry, is there's an awful lot of nefarious activity that have gone on with members of Congress, even with our judiciary. And I think it's time, and you're beginning to see that, just like with the indictment of the judge in Wisconsin, that people start being held accountable for their actions. Once they realize there's going to be accountability, there's going to be a difference in the pushback that you get. You know, it's easy to push back when you think that you're above the law. It's time that we let them clearly know, I don't care whether you're a member of Congress, I don't care whether you're a president. It makes no difference to us. We're a black robe, we're a judicial. You violate the law, you will be held accountable. When that message becomes loud and clear, there's going to be a huge difference in this country.
So why doesn't the word district mean geographic jurisdiction?
Well, because quite frankly, here's what I'm laughing at. It's a little deeper issue than that. Here's what happened is, you know, when you look at the Constitution, we have three branches, but the judiciary was never, people always like to say three equal branches. That's not true. The judiciary was never put on an equal branch with the legislative and the executive branch. It was put there to interpret the law, and that alone. There was only one judicial branch that's authorized by the Constitution, and that's the Supreme Court. Congress came in and said, if you need help, we'll set up district judge areas that could deal with the issues within that district. And they should have said, clarify it, just that district alone. They did not do that. And so what Congress did is they decided to take the easy way out. When you came to abortion, when you came to other contentious issues, they said, oh, we're not going to make that decision because we don't want people not to vote for us. Let the courts decide. Well, the courts took that to mean you're granting us additional authority. You want us to begin to make all the decisions. They gladly assume that power, and now they're having a hard time letting go of it.
Okay, so you have the Supreme, the appellate, and the district. If the case concerns legal interpretation, that goes to the Supreme Court. But the authority and the overreach of the district has to be redefined by Congress?
That is correct. Congress created the district judges. They can obliterate them. They can just simply say district judges are no longer exist. They also control the budget. They could say, hey, you're welcome to be a district judge. You're just not going to get paid for it. They can exercise great control. The problem is, Perry, we just have to be honest on this show here. Congress usually doesn't do its job. They don't do anything. They just sit there, they draw salaries, and they just sit there and meddle and never get involved. It's time Congress take a stand. Part of the reason I believe they don't get involved is because we have a number of members of Congress who are doing illicit activities, and we know about it. And it's time that we go ahead and expose it, put handcuffs on, and start seeing some trials and bring people we can brought to accountability.
All right, let me take a quick break. It's always great to have with us Michael Letts. By the way, check out two of his websites, investusa.org. We're going to talk about that when we come back quickly. And his personal website, Michael Letts, LETTS.us. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Always great to have Michael Letts with us. Michael is really one of, I consider, the frontline warriors of our times. He's the founder and the president and CEO of Invest America. He's over 30 years in law enforcement himself. He's the author of a great read called Truth, Lies, and Control, Finding Hope in an Upside-Down World. There's a picture of the cover of his book. Really well written. He has two websites, investusa.org and Michael Letts, letts.us. Michael, I know your heart there with your ministry there, your outreach with investusa.org. Never more important when we see funding cuts in police departments across the country. Hopefully that's being rethought and people are realizing we can't do this. But you also saw something that was really a great need, and that was a lot of these officers just don't have the proper equipment. And that's where Invest came in. Give us an update.
Well, quite frankly, we're over 17,000 vests now having been handed out across the country. But here's the dilemma, Perry. When we first started 30 years ago, the only available technology was a concealable vest, the vest you wear underneath your shirt. It'll only stop a pistol. That's all it's rated for. Of course, with the drug cartels, the human sex traffickers, the terrorists, and all that have been let in over the last 4 years, they're proud of their profession. And they use an AK-47s, long-range rifles, etc., cut right through one of those concealable vests. So we had to stop creating new technology. You'll see it over my left shoulder here. These are called active shooter vests. And these vests have titanium steel plates in them. Will stop any round available. Long range rifle doesn't make any difference. The problem is less than 10% of officers in the country currently today have this new technology. And quite frankly, here we're asking them to go after the worst of the worst, the drug dealers, et cetera, who are going to be using this kind of firepower. Perry, they're not sitting by the curbside with their little lunch pails waiting to go home. They're determined to stay in the fight. And we've asked America's bravest to step up to the plate. Here's what I think I want to share with the American spirit. We've not had a single one of them say, nope, I don't have the equipment. I'm not doing that. Every one of them is willing to go to battle to make sure that you and I are safe and our children are safe for the future ahead. The least we can do is to make sure they have a fighting opportunity to come home safely to their kids, because they have kids too.
How do we help you on that? What's the deal?
If you go to our website, that's investusa.org, you can make a contribution. It goes directly to making sure those vests are bought for these officers. And you can even tell us, hey, I live in Idaho, wherever it is you happen to live. I'd like to see if we can help some officers here in this community. We'll reach out and make sure they're properly protected. And if they're not, we'll make sure they get it. You can't think of a better way to show your support. You know, when the families see that America cares, that their husbands and wives are protected, they're going to do a better job for you. And that's what we're anticipating in the days ahead.
Michael, you've lived through a lot of seasons in this country, especially 30 years of law enforcement. You've seen the mood of the country swing various ways. Do you think, along with all of these other changes, that there is a swing back to morality, God, and country? Are you sensing something there?
There's no question about that, Perry. We are seeing a swing back to values and principles. Here's the key. If this is going to succeed and America is going to become great again, churches, where are you? It's time for you to step up to the plate. Don't worry about being a country club. Preach the truth. Preach the gospel. Preach values. Let Americans know this is what God says. And there's a reason behind these values. When God tells you not to steal, there's a reason why he tells you not to steal. When he tells you to do this or that, there's a reason why. And it's not to keep you from doing something fun. It's to actually make your life peaceful and enjoyable the way God meant it to be to begin with. Churches, I'm asking you to step up to the plate. Now is the time to bring revival back to this great country.
Thank you. Good stuff. So, long term, where do you see this going, law enforcement in America?
Right now, I see law enforcement as a huge mood swing. People are getting excited again. We have officers coming back. One of the things I've asked the president to consider is deputizing as deputy U.S. Marshals every retired law enforcement officer that's willing to accept a commission. And even if you have to work part-time, I realize you're retired. You want to go fishing on Mondays, that's great. But let's put another 200,000 to 300,000 officers back on the street overnight and see what it does to make sure our communities are more safe.
What do you think about the idea of deputizing citizens?
I think it's a great idea. I have asked every citizen. Another of my proposals to the president is I think every sheriff, every police chief has reserve programs. And I think every citizen should be calling saying, hey, I'm willing to volunteer 5 or 10 hours of my time a month to learn the law, to learn police tactics, and to do ride-alongs, and to go and be backup and to help protect our community. You see, when you do that, you show that you're putting your money where your mouth is, that you believe in protecting your neighbors, your family, your friends. And when that message gets out to the criminal element, they're going to find another country to invade. America's not going to be worth it. And quite frankly, that's the message we want to send, and that's why I think it's so important that every American, look, if you're going to live in the land of the free, freedom isn't free. It costs something. We have to begin to understand that. You need to be involved politically. You need to be involved in the community. You need to be involved with law enforcement. You need to make this community what God intended it to be. It won't happen on its own. We have to have American participation.
So what are the obstacles and hurdles from us looking more seriously at deputizing citizens?
Right now, here's where it lies. Is every sheriff has the right to deputize within his county. Every police chief has the right to do theirs, and every state has its own militias and own deputizing program. So what you need to do is, depending on where you live, call your county administrator, your city administrator, or the governor's office. And tell them I'm interested in volunteering, and I want to know what I can do, where it's the program, how can I sign up. For some reason, you get a call back and saying, well, we don't have those kind of programs. Say, why not? How do we start one? Get involved, get active. We're pushing it down from the federal level, but we'd rather you move it up at the same time from the state and local levels. We'll meet at the middle. We'll make America safe again.
Good, 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 good. One last question. Do you know, back to the DEI issue and all of those social restrictions just for a moment, for the most part, are law enforcement leaders, say sheriffs, chief of police, are they welcoming this, or are there some resisting this?
Vast majority are welcoming it, because we understand the great turmoil and the great detriment it does to departments. Quite frankly, you hear this all the time, Perry. I want the best of the best taking care of us. Well, put your money where your mouth is. If you want the best of the best, I'm not worried about your skin color. I'm worried about your capabilities, your ability to action. But then there are still some of those who are in blue states who are determined to toe the line, the party line, which is control, and they're resisting. But the problem with that happening is they're losing a lot of their force. They're going to other areas, and they're going to eventually collapse.
You see that happening? You see people leaving blue state law enforcement?
They are moving faster. Let me use New York. New York is supposed to have 40,000 officers, New York City. They're down to 22,000, almost half. You can't continue to survive that way very much longer and be able to provide effective law enforcement.
Michael, that's huge. Why isn't that news? That's a huge number.
Mainstream media doesn't want you to know that, because they would have to change their narrative that obviously their policies don't work, and this is the result of it. They don't want to do that. They want you to vote to go back to their policies. Yeah. They surely don't want you to think they didn't work. So that's why the mainstream media is mum about these kind of stories, and they refuse to air them.
Wow. All right. Are you working with the administration these days?
Day in and day out. We're going to make sure that, quite frankly, the promises are delivered. And the promises are being delivered. Quite frankly, we've made America much safer. The economy is now turning around and booming, and drug prices are coming down because of some of his orders. The economy is booming back from all the investment that's coming back into America. Folks, values and principles work.
Yeah. Okay.
That word promises it works.
One quick question. I'm running out of time here. With the border being shut, are you seeing a fall in drug trafficking?
Yes, no question. Although they're getting to be more specialized on it. We found out some of the other key, they have tunnels. We've pinpointed those are going to be destroyed. We're going to eradicate the drug industry, whether they like it or not.
Okay, good to see you, brother. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, go to investusa.org. There's that landing site, and help him. Buy more vests, 17,000. Let's get some more out there. You can track with Michael and all of his activities. Michael, let's.us. Good to see you, brother. Stay in the fight. We appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, Perry. God bless you. God bless America. We're looking forward to victory ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.